the Palo Alto Network's firewall, Content ID configuration now, zone protection, and denial of service. Not that we want to launch them, but we have new and exciting ways to protect against them or to assist in detecting that sort of stuff. So denial of service is a powerful word in the networking world, or a powerful acronym anyway, and certainly one that tends to raise the hairs on the back of your neck whenever we hear it. You don't want things like that to happen. Well, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to assist in protecting against that, well, to some extent anyway. I mean, if we have a massive denial of service from a pure networking standpoint, yes, any device can get overrun and overloaded. There's not much you can do about that on any one specific device. However, when we start looking at ways of protecting our servers or our devices on the other hand, because remember, denial of service comes in lots of different flavors. Okay? So we have ways of protecting against, or at least minimizing the risk that we have involved in there. And there's really two ways that I want to kind of highlight in here. So first one is going to be under our objects, pretty much where we've been doing everything else before with our security profiles. We have another one for DoS protection. So DoS protection in here, I can apply individually, well, to specific policies anyway, determining what I want. These are all concerned with flood protection and resource protection. Okay? So yeah, I mean, location and type is kind of one of those irregardless things. Go ahead and add one, and we'll take a look at it here. So name, test DoS, perfectly fine. Aggregator classified is going to get into our thresholds portion, so I'm not going to worry about that too much right now. We'll just leave it as is. But our flood protection and our resource protection are the two tabs on there. Right? Now again, think of applying this on a per policy basis. So in a security policy, I can be very specific as to what type of application or control or set of servers that I'm dealing with on here. So I can look at things like limiting my number of sessions. So we don't want a bunch of half-open sessions, or called embryonic sessions. It'll tie up our session tables on the individual servers, perhaps crash them based on resources. So set this number accordingly. Flood protection, on the other hand, again, kind of methods for it. SYN flood gives me my half-opens, UDP flood in there, ICMP flood, all sorts of different things that we can protect about. And same thing for ICMP-v6, if we have IPv6 operational. And then other ones are just happen to do with other IP-based floods. It can be a simple unknown thing, but anything we shouldn't have in large quantities. So if we enable this, what are the alarm rates or the active rate or the max rate, the block duration? What things am I going to set on here? What thresholds are we going to talk about in order to help clear things out? So going through and taking a look at it, and a lot of this stuff you might enable with certain things as you go, but quite honestly, for doing it on a per policy basis, I'd say stick with the easy things. The number of sessions here, or flood protection with a SYN flood, same thing with the number of sessions that you're going to be looking at, and don't complicate it from there unless you need to. Know that it's available, know that if I create a policy, let's go ahead and cancel that, I can apply it into my policies the same way that I did before. So looking at all the information that we have. So all the cool things that we're going down to. Now, beyond that, the other thing that we have on Palo Alto is a zone protection profile. And that will handle, well, kind of as it says, a zone. So objects, if we look down here, not really where I want to be yet. Now, where was it that we set up the zones for things? All right. So on my network tab, that's right. So my zones are going to be in here, as are my network profiles, one of them being zone protection. So I'll get the same type of ideas on here that I have, and I can do this. I can have multiple zone protection profiles, but in terms of in my zone, I'm only allowed to set one of them up. So things that we have on here for the entire zone, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and add one. So we'll say user zone protect. Okay, simple enough stuff. Now, on here, better things that I have, not just the flood protection. So these are things that we had set up, just like we saw before. I can do my SYN protection. That's a good one. ICMP probably be another good one. And UDP. We'll just go ahead and keep those and keep them at the basics. These numbers we can tweak, see where they get to, either good or bad for us. But more importantly to us, the recon protection. So neat things in here. Now, and I guess one thing to look at, both from the flood protection and reconnaissance portion on here, the stuff that we're putting in here is not hugely complicated. It's not hugely processor intensive either, which is good because that's why I can go ahead and pile things on. So this is not going to be the perfect protection by itself. We've got many, many other things that we've already talked about from our content and from my application protections that are really designed to go more in depth. This is just some basic security features that are fairly easy to set up, easy to trigger on there. I can do the same thing on here, looking at my port scan, host sweep, UDP port scan, what my action's going to be. Okay, click on that, do a drop down. Alert, probably going to be a good one, or block the IP address, okay, whatever it is that we want to do on there, what we want our reaction to be. At the beginning, I would stick with alert as being my action. That way we can do things like tweak what my thresholds are going to be, tweak what the intervals and stuff are going to be on here, because you don't want your internal users being blocked by your firewall. Or hopefully, if they are, you've got something else bad going on that would have been detected elsewhere, like spyware, malware, and viruses. So with that in mind, play around with this, play with the values, stick with the alert to begin with, and kind of go from there. Packet-based attack protection, again, simple things, very basic ones that we have set up. Okay, spoofed IP addresses, this is like what they call unicast reverse path forwarding. Fragmented traffic, don't want to allow the fragments for stuff. Overlapping TCP segments, so basically it's a simple mismatch in where the fragment offset is. It's great ways that people have been doing to go through and crash things on here. I can do so with timestamps. If your applications require it, leave that alone. IP options, definitely a good thing to really go ahead and trash these. Okay, IP options are mostly unused anyway, so I can feel good about selecting a lot of these. ICMPs, same type of thing on here. And shouldn't have ICMP fragments unless I'm testing out large packets, and I know that I'm doing it. Might be good to have this checked on here. Large packets, we'll go ahead and leave that. You might have the use for your 1500 byte ones. Okay, error messages, things like that, TTL expired. We can suppress these things as we go. Now, I'd probably leave the TTL expired and the fragmentation needed just so we see things. IPv6, same ideas for what we have. I'd uncheck that. ICMPv6. If we're not running IPv6, it really doesn't matter what we check on here. Okay? But this gives me things as far as starting out that are a good policy to have, and I can kind of check on that. Either way, whatever ones make sense to you. Okay? So as you go through here, pick the checks that you have, pick a policy to it, and then once we do that, we go into zones. Okay, and I'll pick on my zone. I want my user VPN, or not my user VPN, my clients is what I call it, my users at this point. And right on here, notice we have a zone protection profile. So I've only got one that I can select, or one spot to select anything. I may have a large drop-down list on here of things that I want to do, but that's going to be the zone protection profile that I'm going to put on here. This is above and beyond that specific DoS profile or any of the other security profiles or security policies that I happen to be doing. So the last of my content ID part right here, my zone protection and my DoS profiles. So two different pieces of really kind of accomplishing the same thing. So this one, my DoS profile, did it per policy, or per rule base, I should say. So policy, rule base. And this one did it per zone. All right. Most of my controls in here all had to do with flooding, so basic DoS type things from a flood perspective. In here I had flooding, I had recon, and I had other specific options as far as, well, options if you will, like options field fragments and stuff like that to be able to set. So everything that we do, I had one per zone that I can set up, and here I have one, I'll make that a better looking one, per policy or per rule set that I can set up. So those are my ideas that I can do, and again, helping protect my systems, protecting the network in general from, well, bad stuff that happens. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.